Right. So welcome into episode 43 of Happy Medium. And I'm finally back with an interview that I think I had hinted at recently. So without further ado, I present to you guys from ESPN 1000, none other than Tyler Aki himself. Tyler, thank you so much for being able to come on with me, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, Sam. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the invite onto the show.
Yeah, yeah, of course. So, like I was just talking about, I like to center my episodes around my guests and their careers and what they've done so far. So, I'm assuming that you have not listened to one of my previous episodes, which is fine. But so my first kind of question that I like to hit all my guests with is pretty basic, kind of depending on how much you want to get into it. But how would you say you first got interested in sports as a whole, whether it was a specific sport or if you played it or anything kind of like that.
Yeah, I think growing up, what I used to do all the time was I would wake up in the morning and TV flip to Sports Center and I would read through. It started with like reading the Chicago Tribune sports section with my dad and like looking at the standings and the stats and like reading the stories about the game or the previews for the game. So like reading all of that stuff was really the way I got into it. And then I would always see like on Sundays, my dad's watching the Bears game or he's got the Cubs game on or something like that. So I was always like kind of tuned in that way. And then it was like me that was turning on the games. So that was really the way it started. It was just kind of a bonding experience for my dad and myself growing up, and it was something that we could connect over.
So from that initial interest in sports, what made you then want to kind of turn and pursue a career from when you were younger into, the whole sports media, sports radio kind of thing?
Yeah, so I would say I always like in the car going to and from school. I was listening to ESPN Chicago. It was Mike and Mike on the way in, and then it was at the beginning Carmen Yurko and Harry, or Mac Yurko and Harry, then Carmen Yurko and Harry, and then Waddle and Sylvie on the drives home from school. So I took a huge interest in it then, and then I think in high school our high school had a like a student radio station that I was a part of. So I was doing that, and that's really where I think it took a turn where I was like, all right, this is what I want to do. This is I don't know exactly what I want to do, but this is like the general sphere of what I want to do. And just off of that, that's kind of what led me down that path, and then I ended up going to college to pursue it and then ended up at ESPN Chicago.
I know you just touched on college a little bit. So I saw that you went to Syracuse for your
Mhm.
life. So why did you want to go there for college? And then what would you say you were able to do there to kind of enhance and kind of further yourself and your skill set?
So initially, I did not want to go there. Initially, I wanted to go to Indiana just because it was a little closer to home and would know a lot more people there. And I knew some people that were doing like student media there at the time too. But then um, our school had someone come visit and speak. His name's Jordan Burnfield, went to Syracuse, has worked at WGN and a bunch of other places. He worked at the Score for a little bit. Um, and he came and spoke at our school and I got to like talk to him a little bit and I was telling him like, hey, I'm thinking about going to Syracuse. I'm not really sure. And he's like, dude, you got to go. And it was one of the best decisions I ended up making was going there instead of going to Indiana and taking the comfortable route and kind of getting out of my comfort zone a little bit. Because I in high school I was a really quiet kid, and I never was like the super outgoing person. I would say like making friends probably wasn't the easiest thing in the world for me. And this was like a real like out of my comfort zone type of deal was going out to a place where I didn't know anybody. Kind of you're starting from scratch from in the friends making department, and you kind of see like the road ahead of what it looks like to do on air stuff at school. And it's not like, oh, you walk in and they give you a show. Like there's like a clearing and a building process to getting on air there. So it was definitely like the more difficult path, the more challenging path, and I'm glad I took it. Um, because that's if I didn't end up going there, like some of the friends that I've made and some of the connections that I now have in the industry because of it, I think are very important and have really helped me do a lot of the things that I've been able to do.
What kind of challenges were you able to face there? Like you were just kind of touching on that, where we're able to, I guess, help you kind of further your own skills and develop the way that you wanted to.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things is like seeing some of my other friends at other schools who were doing media stuff, and it's like they walk in right away and it's like you have a show here, you're calling this game here. And it was just kind of like, damn, like I can't do that for at least a year or two. So it was just kind of the patience process, but I think that like the trial by fire, I think it works for some people, but it's not for everyone. And I think there is something to the sit back, learn, and learn how to do it the right way, as opposed to trying to figure out what does and does not work. Um, and I think that was really important, and it certainly helped me over the course of my life was because it's like you get there and the first thing you do if you want to work at the main campus radio station WAER, you get up 5 in the morning, you go into the station and you write a 90-second sportscast that never hits the air, and it only goes to you had like someone who's like a junior or senior that would critique your work, and then you based off of how good your stuff was, that's when you'd get cleared for air. And that's it. Like you didn't get cleared for that stuff until I don't know, like if you were lucky by like March of freshman year, I think was when it happened. And then like there's like it goes in batches. So like they'll clear a bunch of people for a certain batch, and then they'll clear another batch starting at sophomore year, and then it just keeps on going and going. And sometimes you're just like it's a process that's made to weed people out, and it just kind of sticking through that, especially in the winter. It's cold, you're walking to the station, there's a foot of snow on the ground. You don't want to do it. You'd rather go back to bed. You would rather go out to whatever party or bar the night before, but you knew that if you wanted to do this, you had to dedicate yourself in a different way. And I think the camaraderie of it too also is kind of what built people and built friendships and relationships within that building. So just that was always like the biggest challenge was kind of staying the course and really dedicating yourself, especially freshman year when it's like it's a pivotal time to like make friends and stuff like that. You're especially for someone who doesn't know anyone there, but like you kind of met friends and stuff through the camaraderie of it all.
And I want to fast forward a little bit to what you're doing now, obviously. So, um, first, what was that transition like from when you graduated Syracuse to then starting over at ESPN?
Yeah, I mean it's you go from being like doing everything and like you're kind of like big fish in a small pond and now you're small fish in a big pond. Um, and going there, like it was always cool for me because that's like the station I grew up listening to too. So it just kind of felt full circle. Um, I would say like the the way that I was brought in there was incredibly welcoming. Like I always think of Eric Ostrowski, who's now our Bears executive producer. Like it was definitely daunting for me because like when I got there, Eric was the next youngest person to me, and he was 10 years older than me. He was married, about to have a kid, bought a house, and it was like, whoa, like that. That's the next youngest. Like I almost felt like I couldn't identify with with the people that I was working with, but that was just like you learn to I don't know, like I guess this is what the adult world is like. Like we're in different points in our life, but he was the next youngest in line. Like they'd all been me before. They'd all been the low man on the totem pole, if you will. And Eric was just like one of the most welcoming people, and him, Black, Abdallah, Hood, like right out of the gate, like those guys really made me feel like I belonged there. And it was just, and Sean Davis was another one. He's no longer with ESPN Chicago. But yeah, it was like those five guys there were like the ones that really made me feel like, all right, I belong at this place, and like helped me along the way, and kind of like understand the business. Like a lot of it was a lot of things that I learned early on that kind of like I feel like have shaped and molded the way I go about things is because of the things that those five guys taught me.
So I want to kind of go back to that a little bit. So given that you said that you had grown up listening to that station, do you remember, I guess maybe that conversation or just kind of how you felt personally or your emotions when you found out that ESPN wanted you to be part of their team?
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. It was like my first, I won't say like my first job in the industry because like I had done some freelance stuff, but it was like the first like kind of permanent home, even though it wasn't a full-time job. It was like the first like place I'd said like, oh, I work here, um, in the industry. So it was like, um, it was cool. It kind of felt full circle. I remember I was in Raleigh, North Carolina, visiting my friend, and we were down there for. He was living down in Raleigh, and I went down there with a couple of my college friends for Syracuse, NC State, and I got the call while I was down there. It had been a couple months. Like I had interviewed, and then there was the transition between Disney and Good Karma, so I wasn't hearing anything for a while, and then I got a call from Randy Merkin, and he said, "Hey, like I'm able to hire for this position now. Like it's yours if you want it. Are you still interested?" And I was like, "Absolutely." So it was really cool. And then like I was down there with some of my best friends from college, some of my best friends from back home, and it was just awesome to kind of have that moment and share it with those people.
So throughout your time there so far, what have you been able to do or kind of absorb from others, if you will, that has been able to help you advance yourself in your own career so far and where you hope to go in the future too?
I think I mean, I've gotten just the way that like my job has changed over the years there. I think it's allowed me to do a little bit of everything. Um, I've done like I've started board op producing night shows with Hood, and then it turned into we got the White Sox rights, which was really cool. And when that happened, after about a year, they started needing fill-in pregame and postgame hosts. So I started doing that, which was a lot of fun. And it like, I mean, you're working like a big league job there, and that was always cool. Going to the park, being on the field, interviewing players, going in the clubhouse, and it's just like all of that just felt really cool. And it's like kind of pinch me stuff, and it's like you're sitting in a booth, and I think the coolest part was like you'd get texts sometimes of people who are at the game because like they put the radio broadcast throughout the game, and you get texts be like, "Hey, I just heard you." Um, so that was always cool. And then one of the most rewarding parts of that was there was one game Sox were playing the Rangers probably 3 years ago, and Darren Jackson, the color guy for the White Sox, he comes to me before the game, and I'm like doing my notes, putting my scorebook together. And he goes, "You ever do any like play by play or announcing and stuff like that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I worked on the Cape for and did like a couple baseball internships. Like I do some freelance play by play on the side too." And he's like, "All right, you're gonna do an inning today." And I was just like, "Whoa, like that's really cool." Um, so I got to do that. I got to do an inning of White Sox baseball, and that was just like one of the real like cool moments I think of my career. And being able to just like call an inning of big league ball was really rewarding. And then like my job has shifted, like working Waddle and Sylvie now, so it's more of the talk show mindset and just show prepping. And I really like that challenge every day of like finding the new creative idea of what we're going to talk about for the day. And like identifying, all right, this is the story. Like that stuff to me is like the crux of what all of journalism I feel like um is like finding the story, and this is what should matter to people for the day. And obviously it's sports, so it's more lighthearted. It's not as serious and hard hitting as if you worked a news job. But that's like I think that's what makes it enjoyable. Like it's a passion based thing in terms of like this is what I feel like fans are thinking or talking about for the day, and this is how, if it's a national story, this is how we connect it to Chicago, or if it's a local story, this is how we amplify it or maybe tweak or change the discussion based off of how we as hosts or producers are feeling for the day. So I think all that is it just kind of helps you. It teaches you a little bit of everything that's in the industry as well. So just having all those different type of I guess paths and experiences are what make it really cool.
So you mentioned the play-by-play being kind of a pinch me type of moment for you.
Hmm.
On the contrary, or actually during your time at ESPN also, have there been any like obstacles or maybe a challenge that you didn't foresee coming during your time there too?
Um, I guess a funny story is there was one time Waddle and Sylvie were down at the Super Bowl. This was before I was working with them full time, and it's almost surprising that they wanted to bring me on full time as their producer after this story. But we were so they're down at the Super Bowl, Radio Row, and for those unfamiliar with that, it's like they call it the car wash, pretty much, where guests will just go like station to station and do all these different interviews, and they're usually promoting some sort of product or whatever too along with it. So they so I was in charge back at the station of just making sure they were rolling on all of these different interviews. And um they had one with Rob Riggle, and I was back in the studio, and someone from ESPN Madison, Ben Bruss, who used to play basketball for the Badgers, he was using our studios for something, and I had to help him set it up. So I was away from the computer where everything was rolling, and I'm talking to him a little bit, helping him set up, and I get a text from Abdallah while I'm in there setting things up, and it just goes, "You're rolling on this, right?" And I was just like, "Oh crap." I run back to that area to see if it's rolling, um, and I see that it was not rolling. So they were like they usually give you like 10 minutes with these guys. They were probably like in 7 minutes through it, and so it was basically cooked. Like there's nothing I could do to salvage it at this point. And so yeah, I screwed up their Rob Riggle interview, so um, that was one where I was like, damn, am I gonna get fired? Like, is this it? Like, I didn't know what was next for me after that. But no, it ended up just being like, it's funny. It comes up like now every single Super Bowl. when I'm with them that like, hey, you were the one that messed up the Rob Riggle interview that we had down at the Super Bowl. So yeah, no, it's a funny story looking back on it, but definitely in the moment, I thought that that could have been my last day.
So we're they not too upset at you then?
No, I mean I'm sure in the moment it was like they were a little upset, but it you move along. It's just an interview. You can always there's plenty of other people out there to interview, and yeah, it wasn't the end of the world. No.
So I know earlier you had mentioned some of your co-hosts and your co-workers at ESPN who kind of helped you transition after you finished college, but either if you want to kind of expand upon that, or if there's maybe another person or two as well, would you say that there have been people that have made a positive impact on you in your career, whether it's kind of transitioning from one thing to another or just at ESPN specifically?
Yeah, I think I mean, you could name every person in the building, I feel like. But like in particular, I think having Danny Zetterman as a boss has really like helped me and with my growth and just kind of like working alongside him and then him becoming the director of content with our station was something that I think he always knew what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go in the industry. So I think that always helped to have that connection with the guy who's now my boss. And on top of that too, um, the guy that I host with the most now, Shay Norling, I think he's been huge for me because he pushes me to like really bring it every single day because I know he's gonna bring it every single day. So those guys definitely like those are the ones that I feel like have pushed me the most since I've been there, and they've been two of the most important people in my career for sure.
So um, during, I guess, your time in the like in the broadcasting world or in the industry, would you say that there's been anything specific that you feel like you've wanted to work to improve upon so far?
Yeah, I mean, there's always something that you can work on. I I remember like right out of the gate, it was like for me, it was just finding ways to be more creative because I think that's something that I didn't really like. I feel like that's one of those things like you either have it or you don't. It's not like something that you really develop. But I think I've tried to develop the like the creativity side of things, find the because like you get into this sometimes and you think it's just oh you're reading the back of baseball cards and box scores, but at the end of the day, there's like so much more to that. Like bringing personality, showing personality, sharing personal stories and stuff like that. So it's just like kind of finding that gear outside of sports because if you're just gonna read numbers all day, like everyone's got access to Google. Everyone can go to baseball reference or football reference or whatever and look up any stat that they want. Um, it's finding the other stuff that make you as a person interesting and stuff like that. So I feel like I'm always kind of working on that, trying to maximize that day, every single day.
So during your time at ESPN also, has there been I guess I wouldn't necessarily say like a pinch me moment again, but has there been like a favorite like piece of content or piece of work that you've been able to produce or just do in general so far that really stands out to you?
Yeah, there's a couple. I would say one of the coolest things for me was when our station we did the 25th anniversary. It was at the House of Blues, and it was just you just saw the history of the whole station, and you got to kind of live through it for the entire day. I thought that was really cool. Um, and I got to do like after the whole show had wrapped up, I got to do like I guess it was kind of like a post game show of it with Shay. So that was kind of cool, just kind of feeling all the history, and then people who would call in who were like on their way home from the event or had just been lifelong listeners and hearing their stories about things. That was definitely cool. I think the combine, going to the NFL combine, has been fun the last couple of years. Um, and then oh, the Chicago Bears announcement when we got the Bears, that party was a lot of fun too. Just because it was a lot of people think it's like the biggest day in our station's history. It was the day that we got the rights to the Chicago Bears, and I thought that was just kind of seeing like the joy of guys who had been there, like Sylvie and Carm and Yurko, like guys who had been there for like 20 plus years, and just seeing like we're the home of the Bears now. Like it was cool for them. So yeah, all that I think was definitely, those are like some of the moments that I'll always remember from my time being here.
So, okay. So we could probably do like one more like little fun thing. So I know you're a big fan of the Cubs, but
Hmm.
you think that they will re-sign Kyle Tucker?
Do I think they will? Um, I don't know what it is. I just have some weird feeling that they will. I know it goes against all conventional wisdom and history of what this team has done in the past, but I just have this weird feeling that somehow it gets done. And I think it may be more of a reflection of Tucker than it is of the Cubs and how the Cubs operate and do business, but something tells me they find a way to get it done. I don't know if it's going to be in season, out of season, um, but I just think I think they do find a way to sign him to like some 10-year mega deal. I've got no like reasoning, rationale, or anything. I just think like Kyle Tucker just, I have the sense that he just kind of wants to be here and he's liked it here so far. And I don't know how much like an extra X number of dollars is gonna sway things with him. He doesn't strike me as that kind of guy, really. If it's just like if you're haggling over like a couple mil here or there. Now, if it's like 30 million, that's the difference. Yeah, all right, that's gonna swing it. But um, if it comes down to just a couple of dollars here or there, I think he'd stay.
Just for the, I mean, I'm not really a Cubs fan. I root for the Sox more, but I know that's, like one of the big, kind of
Yeah.
storylines too. So I personally, I'm kind of gonna like wait and see. I kind of have to see it to like actually believe it per se. Like I don't think Ricketts is gonna pony up whether it's like 500 million or whatever. I don't know if he'd give that to him, but I know you're a Cub fan, so I wanted to ask you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Tyler, this is really fun, man. Thank you so much for being able to hop on with me this morning. I know we had to delay it for about a day, but it was still really enjoyable and really worth it to learn more about your career and what you've been able to do so far.
Yeah, Sam, thanks so much for having me, man. Lots of fun and best of luck to you and everything with the show.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Take care.